Hey team, I want to share a story about a longtime friend of mine who's transformed his physical body and his life twice. And most importantly, went through a really difficult period because of the initial transformation and how much different that is for him now. When I first met Brenton, he was a couple of years younger than me on the rugby club. He was a very charismatic guy, very outgoing, very inspiring, and quite muscled. As I got to know him, he shared that he had been pretty overweight when he was younger and then had engaged in a lot of intense exercise and changed his diet dramatically and lost a bunch of weight. And so he looked very strong, very fit. He was an excellent rugby player for our team and also had what I observed at the time was a lot of loose skin. And knowing the physiology of weight loss now, there's a short-term way to do it and there's a long-term way to do it. And when you engage in the short-term ways, your body will leave the skin behind. So your skin expands to absorb extra body weight, whether that's muscle or fat or a combination. And then when you lose weight rapidly, that skin stays. And so I didn't know it at the time, but I just observed it. And we stayed in contact through group messages and group chats over the 20 or so years since we had graduated college. And he reached out to me a couple of years ago and said that he was experiencing a lot of knee pain and that he had put on a bunch of weight again and was just not feeling great in his body and wanted to know if I had any advice for him. And so at that point, we engaged him into the Stay Active method and he started learning how to attune to his body, listen to the symptoms of his knee pain, listen to the symptoms of fatigue and lethargy that were associated with the weight gain, but still engage in exercise. Now, what you need to understand is that there is a boy build to dad bod to father figure transformation possible for all of us. And Brenton went through quite a bit of that. So when he was young and overweight, he decided, I'm going to make a change. And he did that in a boy build fashion, ignoring symptoms of hunger and just pushing through, being willing to tolerate discomfort and pain and just pushing through no matter what. And that allowed him to make a short-term transformation. And he was able to do that into college and then even survive a little bit of CrossFit after he had gotten out of college. But eventually those short-term pathways caught up to him. And as those short-term pathways caught up to him, pains started appearing, motivation started to drop, excuses started to rise, and there's a slow drift away from that goal of being the fittest, healthiest, most inspiring, and of greatest service to others. And so here he was a couple of years ago in that boy build to dad bod decline, and he reached out, and I was honored to be able to help him. He was ready and willing when he reached out, started engaging in the exercise immediately. But not long after, we were set to have a coaching call, and he had missed a few days before that. And so as we hopped on the call, I could tell that his energy had shifted a lot. Instead of greeting me face to face in the camera, he was leaned back. And I see that energy when people are in a bit of a shutdown mode. And this is the posture of a dad bod. This is a posture of I've overdone and I don't know how to regulate, and so I'm going to underdo. And that's what I saw of him. Then when I asked how he was doing, he expressed that he was feeling very sick. He had some nausea symptoms, and he was thinking he had to just take, a few days off to get over this illness. And then once he got over it, then he'd re-engage in the exercise. And I'm really appreciative of Brenton because he listened when I said, those symptoms are not asking you to stop. Those symptoms are asking you to adjust. Those symptoms are asking you to go in, to help your body shift into a healing state. And then as you move through that healing state, you'll be ready to push again. And so on that call, we got into some adaptable work, which is easy movement, touching the edges of his comfort zone. That upset in the stomach, that nausea, we stayed within that. We listened to it instead of pushing out and being more nauseous. When we found the edge of what was comfortable, we expanded the breath. We found some ease there by exhaling a little farther and by pausing at the top of each inhale. And by doing this, it shifts his body from a stressful state into a deeper restorative state. Now, sitting on the couch and waiting 3 days to heal will not deepen that healing state. It may reduce the stress, but it doesn't resolve the stress that you've already taken on. So you don't take on more stress, but you don't resolve the stress that's already there. This adaptable work, this focused time on finding the ease and the edges of comfort is what creates the structure to heal faster and better in the future. And so his reduced motivation is not shocking. He was very motivated. He was very consistent, and his body tested him. His body said, hey, now that we're doing a great job, we've got some stuff that we need to heal. Are you going to back off or are you going to ease up? And he was open to easing up, but keeping moving forward by taking on exercise, by taking on adaptable work. Now, after a bit of adaptable work, he started feeling only tired, not as nauseous, not as painful. And he shifted to steady work. And in that steady work, he was a little less capable than he was a week or two prior. But instead of pushing through to match his capability, and instead of backing off and waiting until he felt fully capable again, he chose to do the work at the edge of his comfort zone. And this is father figure transformation. Listening to the body and not stopping, but easing up. Having the intention of making progress and not ignoring the limitations of that progress, not ignoring the redirection of that progress, but listening to it. And so there would be times where his knee pain would increase a little bit and we would adjust his exercise and how he was completing it, and he was able to do it pain-free. There would be times where he was sore or nauseous, and there were other times where he was feeling great and really ready to push the limits. And he did this at his house. He did this in his living room. He did this in his yard. He was so persistent, so consistent, week after week after week. And he just keeps making progress. Now, the weight loss that was a goal of his has been steady, not rapid, because he's already gone through that physiological process of rapid weight loss. And so his body is set up to really resist that rapid weight loss. It's really set up to resist sudden change. But what he's doing instead is he's hydrating well. And he's listening to his appetite. And his body is going through natural ebbs and flows, natural cycles of ups and downs, changing the DNA expression, changing what his cells are capable of. How much fat do they take in? How much energy do they take in? How much energy do they release? How much can he get done while they're releasing that energy? How much does he need to eat to replenish that energy? All of these things are changing and improving for him. And that weight is steadily coming down and transforming away from stored energy in the form of body fat and into rapidly usable energy in the form of musculature. Now, this is great for him. He's gone through the boy build. His body has responded and pushed him into a dad bod, and he has returned learning to listen to himself, and from that place, going through the father figure transformation. But it's not about him. He had a 5-year-old son when he started. And that 5-year-old son is watching his dad come out of this tough place where knee pain keeps him on the couch, where fatigue keeps him from exercising as often as he wants with his friends. His 5-year-old is watching him and seeing him be inspired to join races with his other friends. And so his son became inspired. There was a local race at their ski resort in central Pennsylvania, which was a mile long. And it was a lot of uphill followed by a lot of downhill. And his 7-year-old is not the physically gifted child that his father was originally. Not yet, anyway. And he doesn't tend to play as assertively and aggressively as his dad did when his dad was younger. But he's grown up seeing his father dealing with the limitations of pushing himself too much. Yet, as Brenton has shifted and learned to listen to himself and keep going, not by burning out, not by ignoring, but by easing up and continuing on, his son got inspired to take on this race. And so there's a whole group of people ready to go out on this run, ready to compete in this race together. And Brenton felt the hesitation. He could tell, I don't know if my son can do this. This is going to be a challenge for him. And instead of deflating his son, instead of telling his son, no, it's probably not good for you, Brenton thought to himself and he said, I know I can do this. And I'm so strong and understand my limits so well that worst case scenario, I can carry my son through this. And so he encouraged his son to take it on. And he said, I'll be with you right beside you. And so off they went on the race. And guess what happens? The pack takes off and his son is left behind. How awful that must feel for that young boy to want to keep up, to want to participate, and to fall behind among everybody else. And he got really sad and he got really scared. And there was Brenton right beside him, waiting, taking each step with him, encouraging him to keep going. And for a moment, his son didn't think he could make it anymore, and Brenton picked him up and carried him. And having that moment of assistance, Brenton being so strong to be able to just pick him up and carry him, not complaining of his knee pain, not feeling fatigue and lethargy because he's overweight and he hasn't exercised, but feeling certain in his own abilities, his own limits, and his own ability to bounce back, that he's able to carry his son. And his son got re-inspired after being carried, said, okay, I'm ready again. Hopped down, and off they went and finished the race. This is the work that we're doing with the Stay Active method. This is the work we're doing with the Hero Path. The transformation to be able to carry, assist, and inspire others is the work that needs to be done. Strong men, father figures, need to be a part of this world, not overdoing and ignoring and injecting and cutting, but not backing off, not quitting, not saying it's too hard, it's too much, I can't do it, I don't have time. Not saying my knee is damaged, I'm done. Oh, I got hurt back in college playing rugby, I'm done. Oh, I did CrossFit for a little while and it didn't work for me, but it worked for everybody else. So I guess it doesn't work for me. No. We're taking on this work together. This method will guide you step by step, just as Brenton guided his son step by step. When you're ready to push, it's going to be there to run with you. When you've got some symptoms and need to redirect, it's going to be there with you. This method and this team is going to be there with you, just like Brenton was there with his son. When you're ready to run, we're going to run with you. When you experience some symptoms and need to redirect, we're going to help you redirect. When you're uncertain what to do, we're going to be there to help educate and inspire. So Brenton found short-term success through ignoring his body and pushing past limits. And that ignorance caught up to him, just like so many others out there. But there is a different path. There is a different way. It's about channeling the fire in the right direction. It's about stoking the embers that your body had put on ice. Now, the process of transforming from a dad bod to a father figure does not mean that you're focused only on those around you. You've also got to be able to run your own race and run it better. Brenton has done just that. Last February, after we'd been working together for about a year, Brenton decided to take on the Frozen Snot trail race up in Pennsylvania. He was really pleased with himself that he was able to make it all the way through, that his knees were able to support him, and that he felt energized and ready to keep going even after the race was over. And that his body was able to keep going, and he felt inspired to get back to exercise the very next day. His time that year was 4 hours and 20 minutes. He's continued staying persistent, and just a couple months ago, completed the same race again, this time under 3 hours. Nearly an hour and a half faster than he had done a year before. Being more capable and inspiring for his son, and being more capable and inspiring for himself. Brenton shows up multiple days a week. It's not perfect, but it's more often than not. Brenton listens to himself and puts in work day after day, week after week. Sometimes that work is really powerful, and sometimes that work feels difficult. Sometimes his body says he needs to do something that his mind doesn't want to do. But his body guides him through it, and he listens and goes with it. And after all of these cycles, continues improving despite being in his 40s. I'm not sharing this story so that you can give Brenton a high five and congratulate him. I'm sharing this story so that you can listen to what he has done and realize you're capable of it too. Brenton has had the epitome of the boy build to dad bod degradation. And despite 2 decades of decline, in the last 2 years, he's turned it around and is now the epitome of the dad bod to father figure transformation. I'm proud of him. I'm inspired by him. And I know you are too. All right, team, run fast, walk easy, steady onward.